Welcome to the module on qualitative data management and analysis. By the end of this module, you would have learnt the different methods of entering data, understood how to code the entered data, acquired knowledge regarding various methods of qualitative analysis, learned to interpret qualitative data, become aware of the limitations of a qualitative data analysis, and learn the importance of verification of analysis and how to actually do it. Let us have a look at the types of qualitative data. Qualitative data can be collected in many forms. It may be visual, verbal or written. It also may be in the form of photographs, video, audio recordings, research diaries, drawings by the respondents, interviews, group discussions, etc. As analyzing written data is easier, verbal data can be converted into written data and analyzed accordingly. However, converting visual data into words may defeat the sole purpose for which that data was collected. Moreover, not all visual or pictorial data such as drawings and photographs can be converted into words in literal sense. Now let us go to data management. It is necessary to prepare the data for analysis prior to actual analysis. The process of converting raw data into a form that is more conducive for analysis is nothing but data management. It includes entry of the data and preparing it for analysis. Let us see what is transcription. One way to manage qualitative data is to transcribe the verbal component of the data. According to the Oxford Dictionary, transcribing is nothing but producing matter in a written form. Transcription involves listening to the audio recording of the interviews or the discussions and typing out everything that has been heard. A good transcription contains notes on the pauses, the hesitations and even the fluctuations in the tone and pitch of the voice of the respondent. A transcription of a visual interview could also contain information on the body language and the gestures used. It is best to transcribe the data within a day or at most 2 of the interview discussion when the details are yet fresh in your mind. Let us see more about transcription. Several aids can be used for transcription such as SoundScriber, Voice Walker and foot pedals, which assist the transcriber during the actual act of transcription. Every transcript should follow a consistent pattern with regard to the demographic information, fact sheet and other information. The researcher is expected to change the names of the respondents during the transcription to maintain complete confidentiality and anonymity. About translation. Data is often collected in local languages as we all know and not English always. However, reports are usually written in English, which is the most standard language for scientific reporting. Hence, it is necessary to decide whether to translate the data prior to analysis or after analysis while you are writing the report. Researchers can analyze in local languages if they are very comfortable and fluent in these. However, if the report is to be written completely in English, it would be necessary to translate the data at that point of time. When translating the data, it is important to capture the nuances of the participants as closely as possible. Now let us see what is memoing. Memoing actually involves writing detailed memos immediately after the data gathering activity. They may also be created by the researcher himself as they progress through the data analysis. All memos are always a part of overall database that needs to be analyzed. Now let us see how to actually create and maintain an organizing structure for the data items. The organizing structure will be created on the basis of one or more of the following. First, the type of the data. For example, the interview transcripts, the maps, photographs, etc. Second, the type of the actual research participant. For example, they may be teachers, parents, youths, children, etc. The third, the key variables. For example, they may be the religious groups, caste or state if these are the key variables in your study. Now let us see what is coding. Coding quantitative data usually means assigning a number for a given response, such as 99 for not applicable, 1 for yes, 2 for no, and so on. This activity needs to be done well before the entry of the data. However, in case of qualitative data, this process is extremely different. In qualitative research, the same data can be coded multiple number of times. When we code qualitative data, we look at how the selected data can be fitted into the codes which we are currently developing. As we are examining the data, we keep on evolving certain codes. You can use the highlight and the add comment feature which is found in the review section of Microsoft Word. Various folders can be created with the names of the codes and coded data from individual respondents, which can be later maintained in separate Word documents and copy pasted to the appropriate folders. The same paragraph could thus be pasted in more than one folder depending on the number of times it has been coded. A code book is the one that provides details of colors and corresponding codes that can be created to make your process of analysis more easier and smoother. When you move on to the next respondent, you will check for the codes again that you have evolved previously and also add new ones if necessary. Thus, as the coding process continues, the codes will also undergo modifications. There are many computer software packages such as Atlas TI, NVivo, MaxQDA and NUDIST that can help you in your coding and analysis of qualitative data. You will learn more about Atlas TI in your module 31. Coding can also be done at the respondent level to help trace the data back to the individual respondent once it has been pasted in the code named folders. This is known as respondent coding as stated by Tesh in his research work. Each group of respondents is given a specific color scheme. Each geographical area is also given a specific color scheme. Further, an index or a table is created which gives details of the colors and the corresponding respondents, which makes the process of analysis easier. Now let us go to the types of coding. There are major 4 types of coding as stated by Boyatsis and Maitra in their research work. First, theory driven, where the codes emerge from the existing theories. Second, prior research driven, where the codes are based on the previous research. Third, question level coding, which involves coding answers to specific questions that the respondents were asked. It may also emerge from the previous theory or previous research. The fourth is the inductive coding. The code categories here that are developed are constructed from the raw information and often carry labels that are reminiscent of the syntax and the words of the original data. For example, in a research study on relationships and narrative interventions in Bombay slums, the participants constantly referred to tension as the major problem in their lives. As most of the participants used this term, researchers first developed this as a code category and then developed a framework around it. Let us see how to develop a code book and code memos. What is a code book? A code book is a sequential listing of all codes that have been developed. It can be prepared alphabetically or thematically. A code memo is a description of a code with the label of the code, procedure for coding, what the code contains and what it does not contain. Here are some examples of code memos from a research project. Right age and friend of a child are examples of codes based on certain words or phrases, each of which may have begun as a separate code. These were later on put together into an umbrella code. They mention the trigger words which should catch the eye of the person coding. The friend of the child code also mentions one instance where the trigger word does not fit into this category. We come to the most important part, that is the analysis and interpretation. Qualitative data analysis is a continuous process. It must be started simultaneously with data collection. It involves four major aspects. First, coding, which involves collecting and compiling similar data into groups and assigning specific codes to it. Second, categorizing, means collecting codes together under a broader head. For example, all codes for the type of work done by the children could be categorized under type of employment. Third, clustering. In clustering, categories are grouped according to the respondent type to enable a comparison of the data across the different types of respondents. This comparison will help you study the possible trends, themes and patterns that emerge out. Thus, analysis is nothing but organizing data into emergent themes or patterns that offer an explanation for the issue or the phenomenon under study. According to Miller and Crabtree in their research in 1999, three broad methods of organizing the analysis have been suggested. First, the template style. Second, the editing style. And the third, the immersion or the crystallization style. Let us see these styles one by one. Let us begin with the template style. Here, a template is used which is derived from the theory, the research methods and tradition and the existing knowledge. The template may be designed prior to data collection and may not be necessarily rooted in the collected data, although it sometimes is based on rapid reading of the collected data. Here, the coding is done using the pre-designed templates. The remaining processes are the same, involving categorization and clustering to assist you in identifying emergent themes and patterns. Please do keep in mind that the analysis of the data may result in changes or modifications of the templates, with the addition of new codes and the discarding of the old ones. This style is characterized by matrix analysis, where the descriptive analysis is usually supported by the use of matrices, flowcharts and diagrams. The second one is the editing style. In this style, the focus is on finding meaningful words, sentences or paragraphs which are then coded, categorized, clustered and eventually organized into emergent themes or patterns which offer an explanation for the issue or the phenomenon under study. Here, the analysis centers on the analyst's understanding of patterns and themes which emerge from the text. This type is epitomized by grounded theory approaches. Immersion or crystallization style is the third one. This is the least structured and most difficult to describe precisely. Here, the researcher or the analyst immerses himself or herself in the data by studying parts of the data in great details over a certain period of time. The researcher then stops studying and begins to reflect on the readings in order to identify the patterns and themes in the text, thus enabling these to crystallize. In other words, you as a researcher or an analyst will undergo immersion to help crystallization of the themes and patterns. This dual process is continued till all the data are examined and patterns or themes are developed which are meaningful and can be substantiated. Let us have a look at building themes and matrices. Themes are developed when group of codes appear to fit together. They either appear together repeatedly or in a predictable sequence. Identifying these groups of codes contribute further to developing themes and consequently the theory. For instance, in the earlier example, the word tension was frequently seen in the transcripts. It was first identified as a code, later as an organizing principle which took the form of a culturally based mental health syndrome. Matrix formats are used to contrast ideas about similar issues from different participants or different issues from the same participant. Matrices can also be formulated for different thematic areas or variables. Let us look at the important points to be kept in mind when you analyze qualitative data. Start the data analysis as soon as the data is collected. Do not let data accumulate without any analysis. Code your data and develop an index as well as a code book. Develop themes, categories, patterns or trends as you go along. These, remember, should be inclusive and not exclusive. You can modify these as required later. The important thing is to start the process of developing these categories at the earliest. Analysis should not be a routine mechanical task. It requires thinking as well as reflection. Use memos or notes to yourself to ensure that all your thoughts and reflections are included. These memos and notes will also help establish validity and provide accountability. A filing system may be handy and helpful. Learn to play with your data. Be ready to change your ideas. Remember, there is no one right or correct method of analysis. Therefore, being systematic and organized is essential. Analysis is nothing but pulling the data apart and putting it all over together again, but in a different manner. By doing so, you are achieving a higher level of synthesis. Finally, remember that qualitative analysis is systematic and comprehensive but not rigid. Let us have a look at the limitations of qualitative analysis. At times, there is too much of data for one person to process and remember. So, one of the limitations of qualitative analysis may be overloading of data. Also, sometimes it is difficult to change the first impression. This may make the analyst resist the subsequent revisions. Information which is difficult to obtain may be ignored, resulting in loss of valuable data. Tendency to ignore information or data which conflicts with the hypothesis and instead focus on the data or positive instances that confirms what we think is also likely. Internal inconsistencies may come into picture. Inconsistencies occurs when repeated evaluation of the same data differ. These may arise sometimes as we may ignore the unusual or the different type of data. However, at other times, we may tend to give undue importance to these by making the different seem bigger or greater than what it is actually. We also face the unreliability of the sources as one of the limitations. Some sources are more reliable than the others. Thus, the data must be weighed appropriately before analysis. However, there is a tendency to treat all the sources with the same reliability. So, when information is missing, all the data from that particular source tends to be valued less. Comparison is the basis of qualitative analysis. Hence, we tend to compare data with the base or the average, even when there is no such base available. Overconfidence in one's own judgment can also prove to be dangerous, as the judgment could be wrong. Let us see what is the importance of verification in qualitative analysis. Verification of the interpretation and analysis is an integral part of qualitative analysis. This strengthens the legitimacy of the analysis. This is essential because qualitative analysis is largely based on the interpretation of an individual researcher or analyst. Moreover, verifying the analysis and interpretation may well counter some of the limitations mentioned above. Verification of the analysis can be done in one or all of the following ways. It may be done by the respondent himself or herself who provided the original data. It may also be done by the team members who actually analyze the data individually and compare the similarities or the differences in the interpretations. It may be also carried out by peers, where the claims, that is your interpretation, and the evidences, that is the data on which the claims are made, are sent to the peers, who are then invited to examine the claims and express their opinions on whether these are adequately supported by the evidences presented or not. They can also be asked to provide the reasons for their agreement or disagreement along with the claims. Let us finally summarize the entire module. Qualitative analysis is a continuous, ongoing process in qualitative research. It needs to start along with data collection. Remember, qualitative analysis is flexible, yet systematic and scientific. The styles of qualitative analysis include template style, editing style, and the immersion or the crystallization style. Verification of your analysis can strengthen the legitimacy of the analysis by removing the researcher's biases. The three methods of verification include verification by respondents, by team members, and by peers. Computers can very well aid in qualitative analysis. Popular software programs include Atlas TI, NVivo, MaxQDA, and NUDIST. Hope this module helped you gain a better understanding of qualitative research. Thank you.